Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Lattice Question Bank webinar. My name is Emily Smith. I'm the head of customer care here at Lattice. I'm also joined by Ryan Hinshaw, the product manager who built the question bank. If any of you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to send a chat or use the Q&A function, and we will make sure to address them at the end. Today we'll be going over a brief history of Lattice Reviews, what the question bank is, how you can transition from your existing questions and templates to the new question bank. We'll talk about working within the question bank and then moving over there as well.
Thank you, Emily. So brief history of Lattice Reviews. So between 2016 and 2017, we really focused on just like continuous performance management and laying this base layer. In 2018, we came out with scored attributes, some flexible reporting, and calibration and weighted scores. And kind of the first half of this year, we've released review analytics, review notifications within Slack, and now the review question bank. The review question bank is really kind of unlocking future analytics in the second half of the year and into the future. So what exactly is the question bank? The question bank is a centralized place to access your review cycle questions. This is something, if anyone is familiar with our engagement product, we've used there. We're kind of pulling over that same functionality into reviews. So what is a question? Before, a lot of these pieces were all tied into the template. And once a template had been used inside of an active review cycle, you're no longer able to go in and make edits to it. So same question still contains, body, description, response type. So rating, multi-select, multiple choice, comment, optional, or private. But one thing you now can do is make changes to these pieces once it's been used. But there are two pieces that cannot be edited. One is changing the response type. So you had a rating question, changing this to a multi-select, and add or removing options. And so an example here is, we have a rating scale from 1 to 5. If I wanted to change this rating scale 1 to 6, this would be a new question because it would fundamentally change like the response type that's getting entered. So in order to get use of the question bank, there are two things that need to happen. One is you need to move your existing templates into the question bank. And the second one being swap out any of your templates in automated reviews. We've gone ahead and done this through two different ways. One is, we now give you a warning banner on the verify page of your review cycle, warning you about legacy questions inside that cycle. And then when you're duplicating your templates, which is a common use framework people use today with our product, we will archive these legacy questions and template and move all of these new questions into the question bank. One caveat here is if you're duplicating multiple templates where the same question is asked in all of those templates, you'll need to archive those duplicate questions. And we'll kind of touch on that later on in the product demo.
Thanks, Ryan. So next we're going to hop in and we're going to do a bit of a demo of the question bank. So when you first get into your question bank, my apologies, when you first log into Lattice, you'll access the question bank the same way that you did before from your admin tab, and then you'll go to reviews. You'll notice that there's now a new tab below templates that says questions. This is where all of your questions will live. Because I don't have any questions in my question bank yet, I'll have this little cat emoji and it says nothing to see here. But you'll always be able to create a new question, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. You'll also have a couple of other tabs. First is our Lattice recommended questions. These are the same template questions that are already existing in our default templates. However, now you can see them as a full list. You can also see the type of questions that they are. And lastly, as we mentioned, if you have duplicate questions using the same template, you may need to archive the question. You can always see your archive questions here. To start, I'm going to walk you guys through how to create a question. Simply hit create question and start typing in your question. Same as before, you'll have the option to make it a rating, multiple choice, multi-select, comment, private, all of those same options. In this case, I'm going to make mine a rating, and I'm going to use that lattice default scale and save it. Once you've created your question, it now shows up in the question bank. Let's say I wanted to go in and use my new question in a new template. I can start by hitting create a new template. As always, you'll add a name to your template. You can add instructions. But now you'll see the side panel with the question bank. Here are my questions. I can see that this is a rating. And if I highlight over it, I'll actually get to see the rating scale and what it is. And I can add it to the template. If I decide that I no longer want to use it in the template, I can always remove it as well. You'll also have the option to see those lattice recommended questions. And you can type a question if you know it exists and you want to search for it. Once you've updated your template, you can always go ahead and create and save this template. Now, as Ryan mentioned, the other way to get all of your existing questions into the question bank is to duplicate an existing template. It's the same workflow as before, where you'll hit this ellipsis, then you'll duplicate your your template, and then it'll take you back into that edit view where you'll have a new template in there. You'll be able to edit, tweak those questions, and when you save it, they will all show up in the question bank. The last thing we want to point out is if you are using those automated review cycles, once you've created your new templates, you'll just want to make sure you go in here and you swap out these templates. Now, we wanted to go over all of this with you guys today because we're going to be releasing the question bank early next week, and we wanted you all to be prepared with what you'll need to do to start transitioning over. We've already released a number of resources in our Help Center for what the question bank is, adding your questions over, sample review questions. And if you go to our Help Center, under our Creating Review Cycle section, you'll see that we've now added those articles as well. Once we upload this webinar to our Help Center, I'll once again make sure to send that out along with these slides. What I encourage everyone to do throughout the week is to start looking through your templates, archiving existing templates that you're not using anymore, and only save the ones that you really want to get those questions into the question bank. Does anyone have any questions for us? I see there is one about questions not being available yet. That's something that we're going to release early next week. I apologize on not mentioning that at the beginning of the webinar. It'll be released early next week. This is a webinar preparing you all to understand what you'll need to start working on next week. What does private do when you're creating the question? That's a great question. So for private questions, if you ever wanted to create a question that you wanted included in a template that you wanted the reviewer to see, but not the reviewee, for example, if you wanted to oftentimes create a fully transparent review cycle where you do peer reviews where everything is saved or everything is shared with the reviewee, you might want to add a question at the bottom of the template. Is there anything else that you want to share with the employee's manager anonymously, or privately? So in this case, you could have fully transparent questions, and then you could have this one private question that only gets shared with the employee's manager. That question will be only ever seen by the reviewer who fills it out, the manager of the reviewee, and the admin of the review cycle. The other common use case for this is maybe on your manager template, you're including questions about compensation, raises, all of that.
So we have a question here about how do you guys plan on evolving the software to leverage the question bank history analytics? So this is exactly why we built Question Bank. The first one was to make it easier to get questions into a template. The second one to be able to track kind of performance over time. So example here is if you ask a question in every single review cycle, how is this person's performance? We are going to allow you to have analytics on it. There's no exact timeline on it, but the benefit of us kind of using and building out the question bank today is when we do build those analytic capabilities, you'll be able to visualize that information. Got it. We have another question here about how many questions will Lattice have. So I think we have 16 questions to start, and whether these questions are research backed, very similar to what we do with our engagement. So what we've released is the same questions that are in the templates today. This is something we're kind of thinking about and working on, is having research back, review based questions. So not there today, but definitely something we're thinking about.
We have a question on how does this relate to the review cycle and departmental questions? How can we use Question Bank to help with this? And so my guess is that this has to do with using different templates for different departments. Where this really helps is if you're creating all those different templates, you'll still need to create a different template for each department, but you won't have to recreate that question each time in a template. So let's say you have a different template for your customer service employees versus your engineering employees, but everyone is going to be asked, how did this employee perform this quarter? You'll create that question once in your question bank, and you'll pull into both templates really quickly, or into all 6 templates for each department. And then you'll also be able to create those questions that you're going to use separately for what are this person's support skills, or how good is this person at coding really quickly, or whatever those departmental questions are. So you won't have to create each question every single time. You'll only need to create the unique questions.
So you have a question of how do we prevent someone from modifying the name or description so that it changes in the meeting and therefore allowing the past answers to become outdated? So I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, of kind of the structure of what a question is. So we have some guardrails on this of not allowing you to change like the rating or the rating type or the scale. What we haven't done is lock the exact meaning of what the question is. So if someone wanted to change the title, make a slight modification, we allow that. So we haven't put those guardrails in place. We kind of put that on the admin to make that judgment call. Is if they're changing the actual meaning of a question, they should create a new one. If they want to preserve the original meaning, to make that slight change, but hopefully the scale still applies.
And I'll add on to that. Most often when we've seen people from the customer care side of things asking to make changes from questions, it's because there's a typo or that sort of thing. And then they don't want to have to recreate, duplicate the whole template, the whole question. So this will allow you to fix those typos. We have another question if we will be sharing the deck. Yes, we will share out the deck as well as a link to the recording once we've uploaded it into our Help Center later this week. Once we get it all up in there, edited, make it look shiny and perfect for you guys. I think that's all the questions that we've seen so far. If anyone has any others, please feel free to continue using the Q&A functionality as well as the chat functionality. Ryan and I will be here to answer those.